The final item on the agenda is a keynote on changing role of finance function in the new economy, presented by a very friendly face to us. We meet him at almost all the accountants forum and also sometimes on the running trek in the evening. Any guesses? It's Mr. Robin Wall. He is the Chief Financial Officer at Dirag, the largest telecommunication company in the Maldives. Mr. Robin holds the FCMA CGMA designation and has been a CIMA member since 2007. Mr. Robin draws on his extensive experience in finance to derive clear insights around what delivers more value and makes businesses more competitive in this rapidly changing digital age. Please welcome Mr. Robin Wall.
Hi, everyone. Hello. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, just. I've got the best slot. This is the lunch slot, so I'm going to try and be punctual with it. I can see on here already the clock is ticking, so I better not waste too much time. I'll say firstly, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I would congratulate CA Maldives for all the progress that it's made so far. The Accountants Forum has gone from strength to strength. There's so many faces here this year. It's unbelievable to see so many people in this room. So I think we're in really good shape, and hopefully next year and the year after there'll be even more presence. And again, a lot of distinguished guests here. I think we've got people from different countries. We've heard from the Vice President of the Chartered Accountants of India. Yesterday we've heard from SAFA members and many other people. And about topics which we would not ordinarily think we would hear from accountants. Sustainability, it's unusual, isn't it? I think many of us now are getting familiar with the term sustainability, but we're used to hearing things about IFRS and so on. So it's really good that CA Maldives has had the insight, the initiative to focus on other areas outside of core accounting. And I think that is very relevant to what I'm going to talk about in the changing role of the finance function in the new economy. We are no longer just technical accountants, so this is going to be very, very relevant for us. And I think also in terms of the main topic, economic transformation, rethinking growth in the new economy, and what I'm going to talk about, the changing role of the finance function in the new economy, I think they go hand in hand. How can we achieve growth unless we're changing? We are influential in how our businesses function, how our businesses will grow. So we have to look at our role in how our businesses are going to grow, what role we will play. So this is the question. Are we accountants ready for the future? I'm sure many of you are thinking to yourself, maybe, maybe not. I don't know what the future looks like. It's very uncertain. Let's see. I think we can't ignore what we've just been through over the last 2 years or so, the pandemic and how this reshaped us. I think we were going through a journey anyway as finance professionals, but there's nothing like this, nothing we could do to expect and anticipate the pandemic, but this definitely changed us. It changed the world. I think it changed us. It changed a lot of the things we do. Pre-COVID, I won't run through everything. You can see here all the different things. Maybe if we say business performance was normal, whatever normal is, now, it's in the kind of post-pandemic normal. It was challenging. Maybe for some of us, it's still challenging. But, we've seen that rapid change that COVID has driven, how we do business. Maybe we were doing some digital adoption, but it certainly focused us moving from a traditional way of business to adopting digital and hybrid models. And it's a journey that will continue. How we work. I put here going from an office to a remote or hybrid way of working. I think some of us maybe have reverted back to the office, but there's a question mark about how we will operate in the future. Many businesses are still operating completely remotely or in some kind of hybrid model. I think in India, there's a lot of businesses that have really embraced this, and I think there's a question maybe in terms of how we work, if there's a need to always work in the office, what do our teams want? Do we need to have this kind of model to attract the right talent? And business planning is another important thing, an area which we as accountants add a lot of value, but typically it's in a cycle, maybe it's on an annual basis. Some of you may do things like quarterly forecasting, but when the pandemic came, we had to look at our business almost every day. We couldn't just look and see what was going to happen in 1 year's time or 5 years' time. We were asking, what's it going to be like tomorrow? What's it going to be like in a week's time? Am I going to be able to survive? So I think that's really helped us to refocus. And also the things that help us to do that, which I'll talk a bit about, such as technology. Unfortunately, Zahara is not here to see this, but this is something from SEMA. This is reinventing finance for a digital world. And quite simply, this is the traditional versus the modern finance function focus. Inverting the finance focus pyramid for a digital world. So on the left-hand side, you've got what is simply how we may look at what a traditional finance function focuses on. So at the bottom, more compliance. Compliance is a very general term. So, it may be routine accounting, maybe, making sure that we can do the reporting and so on. Then we focus a significant amount of time on performance and a bit on value. But if you look at the weightage, it's still more on the compliance side. The modern or the digital way of working, and I think some of us are starting to make that journey, but probably got some way to go. This is inverting that model, so there'll be less time on compliance and ultimately more time on value. And I think we as accountants, this is where we really can do something. This is where we can add value. And I think when we look at the things that we need to do, there's a lot of technology and tools that will help us to spend less time on compliance and do things that tools can't do, at least not today. Maybe with AI they could in the future, but we are very intelligent people, and we need to use that to go back to the business, advise them, and help them to make the decisions for growth. Another SEMA model here. I won't go through this too much, but this is just highlighting the changing competencies and skills in finance. Technical competence is necessary. We can't ignore that. IFRS 15, IFRS 16, we must know the standards, we must be familiar, we must be able to use them in our business. But that alone is not enough. We must go beyond. So if you look on the left-hand side, this is finance working in isolation, where basically we're not really interacting with the business, the reporting and so on. As we move along towards the right-hand side, this is where finance works with other stakeholders, developing and deploying solutions, really in the commercial domain, working with the business on maybe pricing or products, maybe M&A type activity. This is where we can really add value in the future. Gartner says finance leaders must instill skills in the following areas: technology and automation, business process management, data literacy, advanced analytics, business partnering, and collaboration. And McKinsey, they have this thing, Finance 2030, so these are their imperatives for the next decade. There are 4 imperatives here which they think we should really be aware of. Imperative 1, looking beyond transactional activities. Imperative 2, helping finance lead in data. We hear a lot about data. I'm sure many of us, many organizations have data. How do we use that data? Do we harness it well? Do we store it well? Are we using it well maybe for reporting? Are we using it for going back to the business, for helping them understand what products are profitable, what products are not profitable, where they should go next? Imperative 3 is the decision making. So, when we're talking about the use of data, can we make decisions without data? Maybe we can, maybe we can't, but decision making is a lot easier if you have good data, if you organize it well, and you make good use of it, and finance has access to a lot of data. Potentially you don't, if you don't have the right systems, but you really should be the ones who drive this going forwards. You're the ones who can make sense out of this and advocate to the other stakeholders in the business the things which are going to make a difference for the business in the future. And imperative 4 reimagining the finance operating model with new capabilities, not just the capabilities of old. I like McKinsey. I've got a couple of things from McKinsey here. Again, growth is a very relevant thing. We heard from the Minister of Tourism yesterday who talked about growth. He specifically talked about sustainable growth, which I think is very relevant. We're talking about sustainability. We heard that it's okay to make profit. I mean, we as business people, as accountants, we are here to do a job. You know, ultimately, I think the reason our profession came about is because of money, making money. So we shouldn't be shy to talk about that. But we can't do that at the expense of other things. You know, sustainable business performance, but I don't think you can have sustainable business performance without sustainability in the sense of ESG. But for a growth mindset, this highlights a few things in terms of, one, setting an aspirational mindset and culture. If you don't have this, then it's going to be very difficult to deliver growth. McKinsey says that 2.4 times companies that have successfully adopted growth mindsets, there are 2.4 times the companies that have successfully adopted growth mindsets, they're more likely to outperform those who haven't adopted the growth mindset. Activating pathways, expanding the core. So this is about our business. I mean, I can say in telecoms terms, working in Dirago, we provide your basic telephony service. We provide a mobile phone service. We provide fixed broadband service, the things that you typically associate with a telecoms company. But that's probably not going to see us through in the next 10, 15 years. We have to change. We have to evolve. And many of the businesses here are the same. You have to look at adjacencies. At the moment, your core business is probably generating maybe 80, 90% of the revenues, of the profits. But you have to start focusing somewhere, because if you don't do that now, you're not going to deliver growth in new areas. And your existing business areas are probably challenged. Maybe they're challenged by other players, competitors, digital players, players who aren't even present in this market. So we have to evolve. And execute with excellence. And I think, again, this is something in finance we can really associate with, excellence. I think we set standards. We've got a lot of standards. You know, we've got good governance. And I think if we're talking about execution, I think we can look at those standards, but we can also look at the mindsets and the tools that we have to help us really drive value, so that the things that we maybe currently still, but certainly previously have spent our time on, we spend less time because we can maybe automate them. We can deploy technology to help us do those things more quickly, to good, high-quality standards, but then we can, again, go out there and use ourselves as a valuable resource to add value in other areas, rather than maybe just processing routine transactions, which previously required a lot of human resource. Again, on the McKinsey's Blueprint for Growth, just a few questions which they ask as an organization. It may be worthwhile for you just to have a look at this, to absorb this, and maybe you can relate this in your own organizations, but this is what they say: prepares an organization to grow and encourages leaders to answer a series of these clear questions. Am I setting the right aspiration, mindset, and culture to encourage growth? If you don't have that, it's very unlikely the growth is going to achieve itself. Are my ambitions high enough? And how can I ensure my organization has the full potential to achieve it? Okay, if you're not ambitious, you're not going to achieve it. But then, you know, having an ambition alone isn't going to achieve it as well. So we have to look at the organization to see if we can actually deliver that. And if we don't, we have to change things. Am I actively choosing growth opportunities across my core and adjacencies? If we're not focusing on that, maybe if we don't have a process to look at these things, we'll just keep on doing things without even realizing if it's delivering value. Maybe we'll do things that don't deliver value. Maybe we'll ignore opportunities that will deliver value. Am I establishing the right enablers to execute against my growth aspirations and strategies? Do I have the right operating model and resource allocation to achieve my growth ambitions? We talked a little bit about that in the previous slide. Again, in finance, we help with resource allocation, especially those of us who are in budgeting roles or FP&A type roles as well. They have a very, very important role to play, working with the business to understand the future needs and where we're going. If we don't set the resource allocation right, maybe we're not going to go and achieve the things that we want to do. So that resource allocation is really important, and that can only come from business understanding and stakeholder engagement. And am I investing in the right functional capabilities? Again, we're talking about us skills. You know, we've invested in ourselves. Most of us here are probably qualified accountants. Maybe some of us have other qualifications too to supplement that. But that alone is not going to be enough in the future. I think my colleague Zahara mentioned before about what got you here today. Is it going to be enough for tomorrow? It's a baseline maybe, but it's probably not going to be enough. We have to evolve. We have to take a step forward. We have to go beyond what maybe has been the expectation before. These are 4 digital technologies that will reshape the finance function. Again, from McKinsey, they have some really good stuff, and a lot of it is free. By the way, if you want to have a look there, you'll get some really good insights. The importance of data and analytics. Again, we're talking about data here. Automation and robotics, which I think if we look at that both from a data perspective as well as from a process perspective, some of you may have heard or even adopted things such as RPA, robotic process automation, but I'm fairly sure that the relative rate of adoption will be low. And this is actually a fairly easy way to make gains, routine transactions and so on. If you have a good RPA strategy, maybe if you have a partner who can help you do this, this is a way to eliminate a lot of time-consuming, human resource-consuming tasks in a kind of more systematic basis. I think the simple, most relatable way to, I don't know if I say to an accountant or someone familiar with spreadsheets, is macros. That's the way I sometimes just look at it. It's like, in a way, having a good macro. If you've got a task, you create a macro and it does it for you. We've heard of things like AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning. Maybe these are buzzwords at the moment. They are starting to play a part in what we do. They're certainly familiar to you, I'm sure. Those of you who use things like Netflix, who get recommendations and stuff like that, Spotify, etc., they all use technology like this. Do we use it in finance? Probably not. Can we use it? I think so. Where will it add value? That's the question we have to ask ourselves. Data visualization, so to give end users, real-time financial information. So this is still maybe towards the core of what we do, but if we have good systems, if we have a good strategy, if we have a good way of harnessing that data and then using that data, will help us to provide better information. Financial information, despite what we've been talking about, is still really important. It's the core of who we are. So if we don't have good tools, maybe good ERPs or data warehouses or what have you, we're not going to be able to make good use of all of this. The advanced analytics for finance to accelerate decision support, but I think most importantly, as we're going, the advanced analytics for business, the analytics that will help us make decisions that really drive growth. And growth is really important. If a business isn't growing, you're on the decline and you've basically got to focus on reducing cost, which isn't really a long-term sustainable thing. Again, McKinsey, name dropping. These are some of the things they think the potential for finance function automation using demonstrated technologies. So the higher up you go, these are more transactional, and the lower down, it's more strategic. And it's basically, the darker blue color is the potential for fully automating. So if you look at that, they say that general accounting operations, there's a high possibility to fully automate those functions. If you go down to the bottom, some such as business development are not possible. Maybe this requires skill, human skill, investment in ourselves. And I think that's again where we look at this and say, okay, am I investing maybe in myself or in my organization to put those things in place to help me automate, but at the same time, am I investing in the human capital to give myself the skill and the ability to add value to my board, to my executives, to my CFO? Tech is an enabler to help people, not the other way round, and we must remember that. We augment human talent with technology. We have to foster a human plus machine workforce where technology helps people, not the other way around. Organizations can allocate work to realize efficiencies. People will be freed up for more creative and critical thinking, the best way to identify new sources of values. This is from Manish Sharma. He's the Group Chief Executive Accenture Operations. A different subject now. We haven't talked about this, I don't think, in any of the sessions so far today, but it's really important, cybersecurity. And I think in finance, we definitely play a role in this. We may not lead what's going on in cybersecurity. We should definitely have an awareness of it. Maybe we should play a role in how we set a cybersecurity strategy. I think those of you who are either, let's say, CFOs, maybe on a board level or advising executives or boards, you really should be familiar with this. You should have a strategy. You should be able to advocate why it's important to have this. I think many of us may have seen global examples of cyber security issues. I think we've also had local issues as well. And it's only going to get more prevalent. You know, the people who do this are highly sophisticated, they're highly skilled, they put a lot of time and effort into doing this, and they will find vulnerabilities in your systems, in your data. There are many types of things here. I think financial frauds and things like that we are familiar with maybe, you know, we've seen some of those things, but someone coming and hacking your systems, accessing your sensitive data, making what you do unusable, inoperable, they don't necessarily care for it. Maybe if they're taking your, you know, accessing your bank account, they can take your money. Maybe here they can't directly take something, but they can make your life pretty bad, you know, and you'll have yourselves to account to the boards and so on about what you did. You know, did you do enough? Did you have a strategy? Did you invest in these tools? Did you do enough or not? So it's really important for us to think about that and ensure we work with the key stakeholders to ensure that we have a good strategy, we are working with the key stakeholders, we have the right tools and so on. And it's an evolving journey. It's not like now I can just put something in place and it's done. You definitely have to have something in place, but it's going to keep on moving. It's going to keep on evolving. We need to keep looking at this. But if you ignore this, I'm sure sooner or later, whatever organization you're in, whether it's a commercial organization, a bank, working in the tourism industry, working in Mira, for example, you know, any organization will find it really difficult if you aren't having a good cybersecurity strategy or tool set to help guard your vital assets and information. I had to bring this up. I know it's been talked about extensively, so I don't have to talk much about it, thankfully. But ESG, it's, I think, quite ironic that we're talking about ESG in an accountants forum. And I'm not the first person to be talking about it as well. You know, it's been talked about by numerous people here. We've had people who are not accountants coming here to talk to accountants about sustainability and about ESG. We've had accountants talking about it. Has the world gone upside down? I won't go through all of these, but I think by now you know what ESG stands for, and if you didn't, it's clearly there for you to read. These are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. You can read them in your own time. You know, you can familiarize yourselves. Some organizations may have adopted this. We in Diragu have adopted some of these. I think most organizations may not adopt all of the principles. I think there's 17, but it's good to look at them and to see which one of those you can adopt. Definitely having an awareness of this is really important, but seeing what is relevant to your organization. And I think when we come to the next bit about the reporting, it's also very important. So we've talked about sustainability reporting. I know there's different perspectives. I think those of you who had the privilege to hear Mr. Brian from KPMG, he's I IFRIC member, yeah. He was here 2 weeks ago, I think. He was talking about sustainability and the new International Sustainability Standards Board, I think it is ISSB. So there's different sustainability boards and reporting standards which will come, but I think under the IFRS Foundation trustees, this will be a key thing. They announced the creation of a new standard setting board, the ISSB, back in 2021, almost 1 year ago. It's independent from the IASB, which I think is really important because it gives it the focus. It's not just a subset, it's not just part of something, it gives it the weightage, the importance, why it needs to be there. But it also complements, it's not going to be a standalone thing. And I think when we look at corporate reporting, sustainability reporting will be very much integrated. It will be very much a part of corporate reporting. And I think we have to look at that and see, why is that important? Why should you as accountants worry about that? Why do you need to care about this? I mean, yes, we care about the world and we care about the environment. We're concerned about the 1.5 degrees and the impact that will have, even if we're not sure exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. But as accountants, there's going to be a new standard coming up, I believe, in the next 1 to 2 years, which we will have to adopt. So maybe there's a tick box. We have to ensure that we're compliant. We can report. I think beyond that, though, sustainability reporting is part of conversations within the board. Many boards already talking about this. Investors. I think if you look globally especially, you've got activist investors, and the world is a very, very small place with social media. You do one thing wrong, everyone knows about it. So it's really important for businesses to be doing and seem to be doing the right things, because if you're not doing those things, then your brand image can be tarnished. So these are the key takeaways, my key takeaways at least. The values and attributes for a modern finance professional. We should have a strong core. Technical accountancy and finance knowledge is still important. We can't ignore that. We've been talking about so many things, we might ignore the fact that we're accountants still. We still need to understand accounting. Our CEOs, our other business advisors still expect us to know what's going on with the revenue standard, with the leases, with financial reporting. So we can't ignore that. But that alone is not enough. We need to have business knowledge and the ability to drive growth. Digital and data analytics skills are very important. You're probably not going to be doing this alone, but you should be part of the journey. Awareness of cybersecurity. Awareness of ESG and sustainability reporting, and I can see there's a missing S, but that does say sustainability. Strong ethics. We heard about ethics here. People look at accountants. I think even when we were talking about this years ago, people look at accountants as being trustworthy. They're maybe the guardians of cash. But now it's a much bigger thing. We play a really important role in so many areas of the business, but we must have strong ethics. And I think in all of the handbooks, in all of the different rule sets according to the different accounting bodies, it will outline the ethics that its members must uphold. We may not really look at that, but I think some of them will just be common sense, but maybe from time to time it's good to familiarize yourselves. But it's really important to hold yourselves in good stead, to have good conduct, have integrity. If you don't have that, it becomes really difficult for you to do your job properly and for other people to respect you. And I think maybe the most important thing in this day and age is adaptability. And I'm really glad that someone else had mentioned the adaptability before, but we cannot be fixed. We have to be versatile in this day and age. The world is changing. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, in a year's time, and we can't be rigid and unprepared for that. We almost have to be prepared for the unexpected. We have to be prepared for things to be very different, for the environment to be very different, for our business to evolve, for the economy to evolve. So we have to adapt with it. If we don't adapt, then we're not going to be able to cope and provide the value that our businesses and other stakeholders demand from us. So that is really important. So, are we ready for the future? What do you think? I think we will be if we do all the right things and we invest in ourselves. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Robin, for the innovative insights. May I kindly request CG Fatullah Jamil to present the speaker with token of appreciation. Fatullah Jamil and Mr. Robin. That brings us to the end of today's morning session of Maldives Accountants Forum. Let me take this opportunity to thank all the invitees for being here with us today. Thank you for the intelligent conversation, speakers, and cheerful energy in this atmosphere is wonderful. With that, let's break for lunch.